Well, hello, everybody. This is Dr. Debbie Guy-Geesh, and welcome to our live streaming session hosted by the Pedowitz Group. And my session is called Get Real with Revenue Marketing. So if you don't want to get real, just scroll on through because this is not going to be the show for you. We're going to put it all out there on the table, and we're going to talk about what in the heck is going on with marketing and how come, we can't seem to get out of our own way. And so today I'm very excited to have one of my very favorite people, a perennial revenue marketer. I've known Kristen for years, Kristen Wright, who is the CMO of Virtual Event Place. So welcome to the show, Kristen.
Thanks, Debbie. Really excited to be here.
So, this show is really casual, and so who knows what we'll wind up talking about. But let's begin by, Kristen, just tell us a little bit about your background in leadership.
So I recently changed jobs, which I think we chatted about earlier. I currently am with a startup, but really fast-growing organization in the virtual event and online community space. But all of the steps that I took previously in my career prepared me for this. So I went from very, very large service organizations to mid-sized tech-enabled service organizations. And in all of them, the biggest thing that I learned is understand the business, understand how the business makes money and is profitable in doing so, understand how the business serves customers, and understand all of your stakeholders, both internal and external, and make sure that you're working all of those relationships to make sure you're delivering what marketing needs to for those various types of organizations.
Kristen and I, we were talking about this before the show started because I've known Kristen through a couple of companies and I've seen her working in the big companies. And then when I found out she was working for a startup company, I'm like, oh, Kristen, that must be super interesting, given your background. So why don't we talk a little bit about revenue marketing? Because again, many years ago when you were at Pinstripe and then at CLO, we started talking about, what does it mean to be a revenue marketer? And maybe you could just, talk to our audience about, what does it mean to be a leader of a revenue marketing organization and maybe how it's changed?
Yeah. It's really funny to be asked about revenue marketing by the mother of revenue marketing, Debbie. So I think 10 years ago, I'll date us a little bit, when we first met, the concept was pretty new to me. And I think I had a simplistic view of what that meant because as a business, we were just starting to talk about marketing, generating leads for sales. And we were behind the times as a service company enabled by tech as opposed to a SaaS company. And I got really excited by the idea of introducing more technology, more automation, more intelligence to reach more of our potential customers at scale and do something that at the time none of our competitors were doing. But if you fast forward now 10 years, what does revenue marketing mean to me? Revenue marketing is marketing. If you're a marketer and you don't have your eye on the revenue ball, you're going to be obsolete in no time. And if you're in an organization that doesn't expect marketing to be contributing to the growth and the revenue of the firm, you're probably in the wrong place.
I couldn't agree more. And I tell people that all the time. When you were talking about the difference earlier between working at a big company and a little company, all those things, all those characteristics that you mentioned were all attributes of being a revenue marketer. And I love your comment, it's being a marketer. And I tell people all the time, as much as you wish it was about something else, the only thing that would get you a seat at the table is hitting that revenue number and hitting the growth number and being part of that club, right? So tell me the difference between, let's talk a little bit more about working for that big company and working for that little company.
Yeah.
That I've seen more and more executives during the pandemic just kind of reframe, kind of do a little bit of an introspective and say, is this really where I want to be? And I see a lot of people changing careers and trying something new. So what is it like being a leader and those leadership qualities in a startup versus in a multi-billion-dollar organization, Kristen?
If you want to get real about revenue marketing in a startup, it means getting your hands dirty in HubSpot. Which, to be honest, I've thoroughly enjoyed, because
Okay.
when you are building something literally from nothing, you have the opportunity to do it differently. So through the course of your career and your various companies and roles, you see things that you would like to fix. And sometimes those problems are so big, or those processes and behaviors are so deeply rooted in the culture, you can't actually create the change that you want to create. So the opportunity in a startup to say, how am I going to build my database? How am I going to get us to market quickly? How do I build a brand that is digitally native, to make sure that we are not only relevant today, but for the future? That's what excited me most about this new opportunity with Virtual Event Place, is the option to apply all of the things that I've learned in a new context, with a new set of buyers, with new products and services. And I just get really energized by learning and by building and by making an impact.
I love the comment that you're a builder, and you are a builder. That's one of the things that I've seen repeatedly in your history. And I think great leaders, they are builders, right? And they're also lifelong learners, is something we talked about. So, and I love the idea that you have all of this knowledge, all this expertise, and now you can apply it to starting with a blank sheet of paper, and you can, do all those things that you wanted to do, but we're all hamstrung by being in large companies and all of that. But let me ask you this question, because I get this question a lot when I talk to people. Are you hamstrung in what you can do? I mean, you know what's possible because you've had those budgets in those big companies.
Yeah.
How hamstrung are you with a small budget in a small company?
It's a really good question, and I do wrestle with it every day. For the little bit of investment we're making in this phase of our growth, what are the right investments, and what's the right sequence of those investments? Because it would be easy to rush out and say, I need to, buy a bunch of data and build my database. But guess what? I don't have a library of content to actually market to that database yet, just as a really tactical example.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, right now my approach is very much using trusted partners, so flexible freelancers, consultants, agencies, where we can really define a set of deliverables, go after them, create the result that we expected, and then move on to sort of the next phase.
Well, tell us a little bit about your marketing plan. Like, for example, what technologies are you using right now, and a little bit around your marketing plan?
Yeah, great question. Today, the technology is all HubSpot. Mm-hmm. And coming from a company that had Salesforce, Marketo, and was on the cusp of implementing one of the leaders in account-based marketing, I was a little nervous about going for an all-in-one solution, but I've been really impressed with how sophisticated you can get with automation and workflows and all kinds of fun things that actually would have been much harder to deliver within Salesforce. So today we're all HubSpot. We're a Google shop as it relates to mail and calendar and docs. Mm-hmm. And so extending out into Google Analytics for our website, and Google Ads is sort of the next horizon for us in terms of paid media. And what technology is on the radar, I don't know yet.
Okay, so I'm interested because I have a supposition that the average marketing organization maybe uses 20% of their technology capability. So do you agree with that? And do you feel like, because this is a smaller arena, you're able to better harness the power of technology?
Yes. So I agree. A lot of companies probably don't maximize the investments that they're making in technology. I think I've got an opportunity to do that differently, but only when I make my marketing ops hire. Because on my own steam and with my external sort of freelance team, there's only so far I can push things, and I want to make sure that I'm building that knowledge base internally around our processes as well as the technology, and then ultimately the analytics.
So at some point you'll be hiring someone to run marketing ops for you, right? Yep. How large was your old marketing ops team?
It was a team of 2 fantastic individuals.
Fantastic people, yeah. And so, my next book, Kristen, is called From Backroom to Boardroom, Earn Your Seat with Strategic Marketing Operations.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk about marketing ops for a few minutes? I think that when you and I met like 10 years ago, marketing ops wasn't a thing.
It wasn't.
You just kind of had people who got technology, and you would say, here, learn this, and then they would go off and do it. So what have you seen about the rise of marketing ops as a function and its importance to leadership?
Marketing ops is so critical to not just marketing leadership, but the executive leadership of the business and the board. So marketing ops, and I'll hold this secondary thought, but marketing ops, they have the keys to the kingdom. So yes, they're administering the technology, and in some parts of their role, they are order takers, right? I need you to set up this email cadence. I need you to set up this webinar, et cetera. But the work that they do proactively to understand buyer behavior, to make proactive recommendations on improvements, to understand where we might have a retention risk of a client or an upsell potential with a client, all of that is absolute gold for the marketing and sales organizations that can activate it.
So I completely agree, and I talk about that endlessly in my book. I talk about how marketing operations finally gives marketing that seat at the table.
That's right.
They do have the keys to the kingdom. They have access to all of this digital body language, and they can understand what's going on and why clients react a certain way, even quicker than a sales organization can get on board with something, especially around new personas. And so one of the things I talk about in the book is I talk about a maturity model, because you know me, Kristen, I'm going to have a maturity model on something. And so the first stage of marketing operations is you're effective and you're efficient. That means you do things well and you ask questions around, making sure you're doing the right things. And then you get into the get revenue stage, because we're all being harnessed with, getting revenue. And then I have what I call the customer centric stage. And I kind of see the customer really is the accelerant for us as marketers to get to revenue. Prior to so many organizations pivoting from product to customer, if you were trying to be on that revenue train, it was kind of hard if your company wanted you to talk about product. But now that you can talk about customer, it makes it much better. And then the last stage is what I call next gen. And that's typically where you see marketing ops, sales ops together. You might have rev ops, they might call it SMOps. But, I kind of see that kind of that maturity model within the marketing ops organization. And I love the way you describe what this new hire is going to do, because they jumped all the way to the end, right? They're going to be doing, it's good. They're going to be creating the value for the organization. And it's like the CMO secret sauce. Can you imagine being a CMO without a marketing ops team?
No. Although you hit on my secondary thought of revenue ops in there. So being in a startup, I could almost leapfrog the thought of marketing ops and sales ops as silos straight to revenue ops.
Yes.
So that is part of what I'm thinking on at the moment is, do I put that description out there as marketing ops because that should attract the right kind of talent and the right kind of background, but actually the remit needs to be broader than that, because we're a small organization today.
Yeah, no, let's definitely talk. I think you need to be doing rev ops. It just makes sense for a small organization. One of the people that I interviewed for my book was Brian Bass, who is over at Paycor. And he talks about basically they kind of took very early on, they just created rev ops. They took marketing ops and they put sales ops and they put it together. And they did it because they wanted one line of sight to the customer and no arguments about who the customer was. And they also wanted to be able to optimize revenue. And that's the way that they knew that they could do that, right? And if you have a blank sheet of paper, Kristen, I would say go straight to rev ops, right?
Exactly.
So do you control the CRM as well?
I do.
Yeah. Wow. Why wouldn't you go straight to rev ops then? Just put those two things together, That would make sense.
Well, and no surprise to you, some of it is education around what that means and what's the benefit and who gets involved, right? It doesn't mean that marketing, or, I've got the title of chief marketing officer, doesn't mean I'm going off in a silo building this thing called revenue ops by myself. Of course, you're bringing sales along, you're bringing client success along, you're bringing your executive team and your board along on that journey. So yeah, that's absolutely where we're headed.
I tell you what I'll do. I'll send you a deck that I just presented at B2B MX last week, I think, and my topic was from backroom to boardroom with RevOps.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe it's a huge factor in marketing. You know what? It's not, RevOps is not just for marketers. It is. If you think about it, Kristen, we have to reframe how we think about driving revenue. It's no longer a feet on the street. A large part of this is what I call digital revenue, right?
Yeah.
And that takes a team, right? And marketing is so important to that because they're having the digital relationship before they talk to anybody in the company, whether it's a customer success person or whether it's a salesperson or, no matter who that is. And so thinking about this as a digital revenue and in that digital journey that these customers take, because they're all digital now,
Yeah, that's right.
Those deals all the time without even meeting people, face to face.
Yeah.
So for me, RevOps is an expression of that. So I'll send you that deck. I actually did a little, it was a workshop. So it's like a 90-minute thing, but I'll send that over to you.
Thank you.
I like that idea. I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you have a VP of sales.
At the moment, our CEO is wearing two hats as CEO and head of sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So who do you guys compete with? Do you compete with like On24, Zoom? I mean, who are your competitors?
Zoom is actually a partner of ours that we use to deliver sessions.
Okay.
We're competing with more branded communities and platforms that are really well suited to serving industry associations and industry trade publications who want a very branded experience for their members, their sponsors, their speakers, and have an appetite to keep the conversation going after the virtual conference is done.
So it's not just a one and done. It actually creates a community. Is that right?
You got it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And that makes a lot of sense because people want that these days. When you go to a virtual event now, it would be lovely to have a way to continue that discussion, right?
That's right. Well, and I belong to a few professional communities, and my experience as a member is I've got multiple logons. They're using multiple platforms to accomplish different parts of the, member experience. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, I get some of the most value out of the peer-to-peer interaction. And so our vision is to activate those connections on behalf of our member organizations.
I love that. And people need that, especially now. They need an easy way, a safe way to connect, be part of a community and have that discussion and make sure that it's relevant for them, right? Because nobody really has time to waste. I kind of want to go back to RevOps though. So what's stopping you from going all out on RevOps?
I don't think anything's stopping me. My one hesitation was just, what do I call the posting? Because I just don't know if RevOps is going to attract. I need strength of marketing tech and marketing campaign management and digital marketing as probably some of the primary initial functions of that role. Okay. And so I didn't know if I wanted to broaden it in terms of the type of talent I might attract initially, because ultimately I need it all. But
and I will say that I think RevOps would attract more CRM administrator types, on that side of the house.
And data analysts, yeah.
Yeah, and data analysts. But it would be interesting to see. Maybe you could, when you get ready, maybe you post the job as RevOps and marketing ops and just see what you find. I do find that people are really excited when they start talking about RevOps. Marketers are excited about being part of a RevOps team, because it gives them a broader, it gives them a bigger place to learn, you can learn more. But I do think you're right in that you really need very specific marketing skills.
Mm-hmm.
And how shall I say this? I think it would be better to hire somebody that's marketing oriented, because you just can't learn about campaigns overnight. I mean, come on,
Right.
you can administer a CRM. Come on, it's not that bad, right? But they also need to have a sales bent, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, next week on the show, I'm having a good friend of mine, Liz Sophia, and she has been a CMO and a VP of marketing for many years. And a lot of times when she hires a marketer, she actually has them do a tour of duty in sales before they come over to marketing.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't want a bunch of marketers who don't understand sales and don't know how to talk to them, right?
That's really powerful.
Yeah,
so I know her. She and I were part of the same PE portfolio for a little bit.
Okay.
And I love that idea. One of my most impactful career development experiences was a tour of duty. And it wasn't a tour of duty over a period of time. It was carrying an opportunity from start to end. Mm-hmm. And I still bring it up all the time, even though it was 15 years ago in my career. But the requirement to be on with that prospect, to know or find all of the answers, to answer the tough questions that we're writing materials for all the time. It's totally different when you have to get face to face with someone and you have to overcome their objections.
Yes.
You've got to bring your internal team along on crafting the right solution. 100% invaluable. I think that's amazing.
One of the metrics that I think is important for a revenue marketing organization is what I call time in front of customer, right? If you have zero time in front of customer, you're not a revenue marketer. You can't really understand it. Even if you're a fly on the wall when you're listening to sales calls, right? If you have zero time in front of customer, you're just never going to get it. You're just not. And I have been in organizations where literally I finally got them to admit they didn't know the persona. They just made shit up. I'm not kidding, because they had zero time in front of the customer. So yeah, I love that idea. I'm actually going to be speaking. Liz now works for Manhattan Associates.
Okay.
They're having a national, this is National Women's Month, and I'm speaking to her global team about, women's things. So that'll be great. That'll be a lot of fun.
That's great.
I'll tell her you said hello. So she's very happy over at Manhattan.
Good.
But again, I love this idea of, you really are looking for that purple unicorn, because they got to know marketing, they have to know technology, they have to understand sales, right? Now, can this person be virtual?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, you just let me know when you're ready to start looking, and I will reach out to my network. Because of the book, I actually, I do know somebody. I don't know how much you want to pay, but I know somebody.
Great. Let's trade notes. I love it.
Trade notes. I just got a note from this guy yesterday, so maybe he would work out for you. I'm not sure. He's it's pretty incredible. So anyway, but I think that, just think about it from a leadership perspective, Kristen. 10 years ago, you weren't half as involved in technology as you are today. I mean, today, if you can't understand how it helps the business, you really can't be an effective leader.
That's right.
So tell me about what you think the future holds for your marketing organization. We talked about RevOps. We talked about, getting a hire. Like, for example, what % of the pipeline do you aspire to contribute to?
Oh my gosh, Debbie. I have no baseline yet today. So I aspire to be better than the benchmark, right?
Okay.
That was around 40%. I don't know what it is today.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll do even more than that. So
today we're actually seeing a lot come from referrals. So people who attend events on our platform are coming saying, hey, can you run my event? So one of the opportunities that's afforded me is actually getting into the product development funnel a little bit more to say, how do we appropriately offer conversion opportunities while people are attending an event to learn more about us or to contact sales?
I love that. I'm sorry. And part of that is, if you think about a revenue marketer, they should be involved in every single part of the business, right? Mm-hmm. I don't understand. I've worked with companies I won't be more descriptive of that, but I've worked with companies where product development never talked to marketing. And I'm like, guys, how much data marketing has about what your customers want, what they don't want, what they respond to, what they don't respond to. And I get this kind of blank look, right? So what an opportunity for you to go in and say, not only can you help identify new opportunities, which is a revenue marketing mindset, Kristen, right? It's not, I'm here to create a pretty website. It's how can we grow the business? Is
That's
that
right.
the mantra?
100%. How can we grow this business?
So you guys must be seeing good growth right now. I'm assuming, because it's just a very hot market for this type of thing. So growth is good.
Growth is good. Product roadmap is really exciting.
Fantastic.
But I think most impactful for me has been just this energy you get from literally building the plane while you're flying it. So I don't know if you remember, that was an old EDS commercial from the 90s.
Oh, I know it well. I remember it well. Oh,
But
yeah.
that's what this feels like. Our technology platform exists, our go-to-market, we're literally building from the ground up. And so in some instances, we're having to go back and say, now, what does the product do in this area or that area? Show me how that works, right? Because again, the product exists, but we haven't really articulated it internally, let alone externally. So that's really, really energizing and a good challenge to wrap your head around and a lot of fun.
So one of the things I've seen during the pandemic, I've seen people step back, re-examine their lives and say, is this really where I want to be? And I am seeing people do things that they've put off for a long time, including switching jobs. So what advice would you give to somebody who is in that place of contemplation right now?
Boy, I think jump. I was really nervous to jump. I tend to be kind of a lifer, if you could call it that. I had a 15-year stint. My first role really out of college ended up to be 15 years. Although I think about that as a series of almost 7 jobs inside a really big company. I got to work globally. I got to work locally. I filled a passport. I did sales. I did marketing. I did product support. I just kept collecting experiences. And so when you come to that point where you say, I don't see the next experience that I can collect and add to my repertoire or my profile, it's probably time to go do what's next. And you've earned it. You've earned the right to apply your experience somewhere else, to learn some new things, to learn it with new people, and to grow, keep growing.
I can feel the excitement and passion rolling off of you right now. I just love that. And I would echo that. Anybody looking for a change right now, do it.
There's a lot of companies hiring.
There's a lot of companies hiring. Look for some new opportunities. Look for some new ways to do things. Okay. So one more question before we go. And what is something you wish you'd known 10 years ago that you know now?
What do I wish I knew 10 years ago? I wish I would have been more intentional about alignment with sales. And by that, I mean, whenever you have a new sales leader come in, or even an influential individual contributor come in, you have to start from the beginning. You can't assume they're going to understand what it is you built with the previous sales leader and why it's good and why it's valuable and why it's working. You actually have to put in the hours and the meetings and the face-to-face or screen-to-screen to almost co-create it again, understand their perspective, understand their definition of marketing, and maybe recreate that vision with them, and where you're going to take the growth strategy going forward. I didn't do that. I didn't do a good enough job of that a few times. So if anybody can learn from my mistake, I would love to share that.
You and I talked about that before the show. And when I got my doctorate in 2019, my research, one of the questions was, if you're going to be a revenue marketing CMO, then which relationships are most important, right? Sales was number one.
Right.
No question. Executives were a far second compared to sales. So anyway, so that is a great piece of advice. Everybody listen to Kristen because she's 100% right. So, well, Kristen, thank you so much. And I hope everybody goes and takes a look at your company. It's called
Virtual Event
Place. It sounds like it would be fantastic in certain situations. And if you really want that branded experience, Kristen, thank you so much for being on the show. I enjoyed our time so much. You have a great day. I hope the weather stays nice and warm for you in Wisconsin.
Thanks, Debbie. Have a great one.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Bye.